In this video, we're going to talk about working with buyers. Buyers are one of my favorite customer types to work with. I know most agents are always hyper focused on listings, but here's why buyers are very, very excellent to start with. Number one, it's going to be faster money. If you think about it, when you have a willing and able buyer, all you have to do is find them a house that they like so that they can pull the trigger, and 30 to 45 days later, you're getting paid. The other side of that is you can control a lot of times your income when you have a significant amount of buyers coming in. When you're listing and you don't have a lot of listings, or you're not able to effectively price them, which is a huge component to be an effective listing agent, you're not going to be able to control your income as quick. The other reason why I like buyers is because when you're an agent and you're learning the business, it's what I always started out every single agent on my team with. And the reason why is because to be an effective listing agent, you have to be an effective buyer's agent first. You have to know the ins and outs of the other side of that transaction in order to be able to communicate to them what to say to their clients in order to get the deal through to the finish line. So one example of that would be, hey, congratulations, we accepted everything except for the price, right? So you're going to want to be able to direct them on how to deliver that counteroffer as a listing agent to their clients. But that comes from the experience on the other side of being a buyer's agent. Now, I was always told that a real healthy business is 50% buyer side transactions, 50% seller side transactions. For me, because I started out really working with buyers, and because I was growing a team and I like working with new agents that didn't have a lot of preconceptions or bad habits, I had higher amount of buyer side transactions than I did seller side transactions, even though on average I would keep 100 listings active at any given time. So let's talk about working with buyers. Buyers really only want two things, as we know. They want variety and value when they're beginning their search, right? So they want to see as many homes as they can in their price range and area, and they want to get the best deal. That's the value side. So communicating that in the beginning is something that we do in the script. Then, once they start their buying journey, it's really easy for us to program them to, number one, commit to doing business with us through a buyer's agreement or buyer's agency agreement. So when you're working with a buyer, it's easy to program them to sign up to do business with you exclusively through a buyer's agency agreement. The other beautiful thing about that is you're not leaving your commission up to the listing agent. You're agreeing to it on the buyer's agency agreement up front. You should also have a transaction fee in there. We'll talk about those things in subsequent videos. And when you're working with them, you can guide them and say, hey, look, when I am looking out for your interest, you can go and windshield homes. If you talk to another agent, you could tell them that you're already contracted to work with me. That'll prevent you from being hounded with a bunch of sales pitches. Plus, you can go out and you can windshield the properties that I sent you without a hungry salesperson over your back, right? And so there's a lot of ways that you can program a buyer to do a lot of the work themselves when you have really a good buyer's presentation, which we'll get into. So when you're working with a buyer, one of the things that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have a process, right? You're going to want to have a process for selling the home. Now, what I always do is I tell them upfront, these are not my homes, so I want you to give me your honest feedback because you can't hurt my feelings. The other thing that I never did was I never tried to sell the features of the home, and I never said, oh, look at this wonderful kitchen, look at these wonderful cabinets. None of that. What we would do is we would walk through the home. I would generally look for a house that the wife liked because she's going to do all the selling for me. That's just the truth of the matter. When you're working with buyers, they're going to want to have a list of homes that they're going to want to see. Generally, they're going to have a huge list, and you're going to want to narrow that list down. You're going to want to explain to them, hey, let's pick out the top 3 to 5 homes that we want to look at first. When you look at more than 5 homes, they're going to start to get fuzzy and blurry. If out of that first 3 to 5, you don't see what you want, then let's go to the subsequent list and let's pick out our top 3 to 5 from there. This process has been the most beneficial to the customers that I've worked with in the past. Does that sound fair? I would always get their agreement. I would never get pushback. So then from there, if they had a big stack, we would go and we'd narrow to those 3 to 5 homes, generally 5. And what I would want to do is I normally would have an understanding of the market, maybe even have been in these homes before, and I'd want to do what I call stacking the deck. I would want to land on the best house last. Most people have a desire to fulfill that variety side, so they're going to want to look at as many homes as they can, and I'm going to want to sell one today. So I want to try to land on the most probable outcome of the homes on the very last home that I show. Next, when you're in the home, there's a couple of things that you can do. You can either have a checklist in a little clipboard where they can rate the homes. I like this a lot, on a scale of 1 to 10, how did you like the curb appeal? How did you like the layout? How did you like this? And you can be creative with the questions. But what I generally would do is after every single home, I would just say, what do you think and what would you like to do? And they'd generally tell me, right? Because I've already taken the bricks out of the bag, right? These aren't my homes. You can give me your honest feedback. What did you think and what would you like to do? It's going to help me narrow down the search and find you the best home. So generally, if it wasn't the right home, what they'd like to do is go on and look at the next one. And when I found the home that was resonating with them, in sales, you kind of get a sixth sense over time. You know, you get the spidey sense tingling, the hair on your neck starting to stand up. You can tell that they're really liking it. At that point, I would ask to excuse myself. I would say, hey, do you mind if I step outside and make a couple of phone calls? This is a very important tip. That way, they have the ability to talk about it without you hovering over them. And so, what's happening at this point is they're making the decision. And so, when they get done looking at the home, they're going to come outside, and that's where I'm going to be there. And I'm going to say, so what do you think and what would you like to do? They're going to tell me, hey, we like it. You know, it's this price. It's a little bit above our price range. We were thinking about offering this, or we want to still look at some other homes. Whatever the case was, what I would ask is, would you like me to call the listing agent to see what kind of activity they have on this home right now and what kind of offers they had or would entertain? In addition, if there are any offers coming. And if they said yes to that, that's a pretty good indicator that they're very interested in this home. So what I would do is I would say, well, I'm going to put them on speaker if you would just be quiet for a moment. And I would call them and I would ask these questions to the listing agent right in front of the client. Hey, this is Mike Otto. I just got done showing your home at 123 Main Street. Can you tell me, do you have any offers that are coming on it? And they would tell me, yeah, we don't have any right now, but we're supposed to get one tomorrow. Okay, great. What do you think the low penny is that your seller would take? Now, obviously, they're not supposed to answer this question, but generally they will because they're talking shop with me, another fellow colleague. If the price was $300, they just turned down an offer at $280, but I know they'd take $290. Now I have that information coming straight from the horse's mouth instead of mine. My customer's hearing this information. The next question I would ask is, if I were to bring you an offer, how soon do you think you could get it presented? That's going to be very important information, especially if there's another offer possibly coming tomorrow. And at that point, they'll tell you, well, they're out of town, or I can get it presented right away. The last question that you want to ask is, other than price, is there anything that is pertinent or important to the seller in the transaction, right? And this is going to be helpful because they might need possession after close that wasn't clearly communicated on the listing. They might want to take a chandelier that's in the living room, and even though it was on the listing, you didn't see it, but they're going to have to counter that back if you don't write that into the offer. Could be something as far as furniture is concerned. Whatever the case is, you're going to want to gather that information. Once you got that, then you can turn to your customer and you say, what would you like to do? Again, just a real soft close. They're going to tell you what they'd like to do. And generally, they're going to say, well, we'd like to write an offer. And at that point, if you don't already, you should have a contract with you at all times so you can break it out right there, hand write out the offer right on the hood of your car, and then get that submitted as soon as you get back to the office. And that, my friends, is how you make a really smooth process in a transaction. That's how you close in a real cool way that's not pushy or salesy or cheesy. And that's how you service your client very well. Now, if you do have a really smart listing agent on the other end, you ask, what's the low penny? They're going to say, I can't tell you that. In which case, that's fine. We're going to make the offer based on what the seller or the buyer thinks is going to be best for them. But asking these questions, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I'd highly recommend you do this. You're also going to create a tremendous amount of rapport with your buyer, showing them that you're on their side, that you're negotiating on their behalf, that you're their client, and it's going to make a good experience for them, which is in turn going to get you referrals in the future. So hopefully this added a lot of value to you. Take some notes, write these things down, get them implemented into your business, and get out there. Let's make some money.